Elanor Davis had forgotten how to laugh. The smile had been gradually erased by long days at the drafting table, replaced by the precise, unwavering focus that had made her reputation as an architect unshakable. Her career was a testament to her intuition and skill, a smooth ascent built on client trust. But the foundation of her private life, the complicated geometry of her family, had always been unsound. Her parents, Margaret and Harold, were architects of their own desires. Margaret's life was a blueprint for social ambition, while Harold's was a speculative gamble, dedicated to investments that were little more than bets. Their shared flaw was a profound financial blindness and a chilling indifference to the collateral damage they caused. "Eleanor, you wear gravity like a coat. You should learn to enjoy life," her mother would chide, a refrain from childhood. To Margaret, enjoyment and extravagance were synonyms. Eleanor's childhood concerns about money were dismissed as dreary, her planning for the future as pointless worry. Her sister, Pamela, was their cherished creation. She had Margaret's beauty and Harold's facile charm, perfect in their eyes. Her every wish was indulged, her failures excused, her triumphs magnified. She lived a gilded life under their roof, her luxuries and missteps quietly underwritten, a financial burden that inevitably settled on Eleanor's shoulders. Only her grandmother, Rosalind, had seen Eleanor clearly. With gentle eyes and unsparing insight, Rosalind watched her son and daughter-in-law's recklessness and the painful favoritism they showed. "You have a quiet strength, Eleanor. It will be your anchor," Rosalind had told her, starting when Eleanor was 10. Her grandmother's home was a sanctuary of calm, filled not with mere antiques, but with stories. "Objects have souls, especially those that have been loved," Rosalind would say, a philosophy that would later seep into Eleanor's own designs. When Rosalind passed away while Eleanor was in college, her will left the house and its cherished contents to Eleanor. Her parents had called it clutter and tried to clear it away, but Eleanor fought desperately. The one thing she secured without contest was the Davis family heirloom, a blue sapphire pendant. "Someday, you'll understand its true value," were Rosalind's last, cryptic words, etched into Eleanor's heart. In the years that followed, Eleanor built her career and, despite everything, tried to maintain the fragile structure of family. She absorbed their debts, paid for Pamela's education, covered medical bills, asking for nothing, hoping to preserve some ghost of kinship, some connection to her grandmother's memory. 3 months ago, she left for a career-defining project in Europe. With quiet worry, she asked her parents to look after her home, the white colonial she'd inherited. "Of course, everything will be fine," her mother's voice had trilled over the phone. On the flight back, fatigue mingled with a low, persistent anxiety, a feeling that her grandmother was whispering a warning she couldn't quite hear. As the taxi turned onto Maple Street, the autumn-touched elms were a blur. She was home. The taxi stopped. "Is this the right place?" the driver asked, eyeing the sign on the perfect lawn. Eleanor could not speak. A large, "For Sale" placard stood defiantly in the grass. A "Sold" sticker slapped across the agent's name. "Yes," she finally whispered, the word ash in her mouth. She stood before the house, her key useless in the changed lock. Her heart hammered a frantic rhythm against her ribs. She called her mother. "Oh, Eleanor, you're back." Margaret's voice was effervescent. "There's a for sale sign. What have you done?" "We sold it, got a marvelous price. You'll need to find a new place." "I'm afraid you couldn't. It's in my name. Your father handled some paperwork. It's all settled. The new owners move in next week." A cold dread pooled in Eleanor's stomach. "My things, grandmother's things. We cleared it all out. That old furniture, your books, that box of your grandmother's junk, gone. We needed the space for the staging." "The pendant?" Eleanor's voice was a thread. "That old blue stone? Pamela said it was dreadful." "Really, Eleanor? Who would wear it?" In the background, Pamela's laugh tinkled like breaking glass. "Eleanor, you missed the most wonderful party." Eleanor sank onto the front steps. The world had dissolved in her 3-month absence. The house, the memories, the last physical tether to her grandmother, all gone. "Why?" was all she could manage. "Don't be cross," Margaret replied, a note of petulance creeping in. "You're always so generous. We thought you'd buy something new." Besides, we cleared Pamela's debts with the proceeds. Protect the Davis house. The truth is, Rosalind's unfinished last words echoed in the void. What debts? Eleanor asked, her voice now eerily calm. Oh, you know, Pamela's investments, your father's bills. Eleanor took a breath. Deep within, something crystalline and fundamental, the last filament of familial bond, snapped. I understand, she said, the calm absolute. Don't regret this. What does that mean? You always forgive us. Margaret laughed, but it sounded thin. Eleanor ended the call. The autumn wind was cold on her cheeks. She stared at the house, at the sign, at the life that had been stolen. Tears threatened but evaporated before they fell, burned away by a new, cold fire. I failed to protect what was entrusted to me. Her phone vibrated. A text from Deborah Schwartz, her friend and a fiercely capable attorney. Welcome back. Drinks soon? Let me know when you're home. Eleanor read the message. Slowly, she stood. The weight of grief and betrayal began to solidify into something else, a resolve as hard and clear as a blueprint. This isn't the end, she whispered to the empty house, to the ghost of her grandmother. This was the beginning. Deborah Schwartz's office was in an old stone building, all solidity and order. Her secretary, Janet, looked up in surprise. Eleanor, when did you get in? Yesterday, Eleanor said, her smile a tired ghost. Is Deborah free? It's urgent. Minutes later, Deborah embraced her, then held her at arm's length, her sharp eyes missing nothing. What's wrong? Eleanor told her. The sold sign, the changed lock, the callous confession on the phone. Deborah listened, her pen scratching notes, her frown deepening. So, they fraudulently sold your house and destroyed your property. Deborah summarized. The house was yours, per Rosalind's will. Yes, but my father handled paperwork. Property transfer requires your signature. It's not optional. Deborah turned to her computer. Let's see the public record. The keys clicked. Then Deborah's face stilled. She turned the monitor. Eleanor, according to this, the title was transferred from you to your parents 5 years ago. That's impossible. I never signed anything. The document on the screen was official. The signature was a clumsy forgery. Deborah's voice was soft. We need the original will. Do you have it? It was in the box they threw away. It may still be traceable. First, we prove the fraud. Deborah reached for the phone. We start with the lawyer who executed your grandmother's estate. They'll have a copy. But at the venerable firm of Morris Sons, they met another wall. The lawyer, elderly Mr. Morris, spread his hands in regret. A fire in our records room, 5 years back. I'm afraid Mrs. Davis's file was among those lost. The coincidence was too perfect. A hollow in the story. Deborah and Eleanor exchanged a glance, a silent acknowledgement that the battle had just begun, and the first skirmish was lost. Are there any other copies? Any notes? Deborah pressed, her voice steel wrapped in silk. Mr. Morris hesitated, his eyes drifting to a corner of his dusty office, as if the past itself might be hiding there. There might be an old procedural memo, but it would be in our secondary archive. It could take time to locate. Time. It was the one thing Eleanor's family had counted on her wasting. But as she sat in the quiet office, the phantom weight of her grandmother's pendant against her chest, she knew time was now a tool, not a trap. The first line had been drawn. The fight for her legacy, for the truth Rosalind tried to tell, was underway. The silence in Mr. Morris's office was thick with dust and disappointment. Then he leaned forward, his fingers steepled. Actually, he said, the word tentative. Your grandmother was a meticulous woman, cautious. She often spoke of contingencies. It's very likely she also filed a copy of her will with the notary public. It was a single thread of hope. Deborah's eyes met Eleanor's, and a new search began in parallel, one for legal proof, and one for the physical remnants of her stolen past. Your belongings, Deborah said, strategizing. They wouldn't just vanish. Check local antique dealers, charity shops, online marketplaces. If they cleared things out, there will be a trail. Eleanor's nights became a ritual of phone calls, her voice growing hoarse as she described her grandmother's escritoire, her own university sketches, and, always, the pendant, a blue sapphire set in silver filigree, the initials R.D. are engraved on the reverse. On the third night, a call came. Miss Davis? Martin Greenberg, of Treasures of the Past. I believe some items matching your description came through my shop. The next morning, in the cluttered, sun-dappled shop, the white-haired Mr. Greenberg produced a cardboard box. A gentleman and a younger woman said it was clutter. I bought a few pieces, but most. He gestured to the box. I kept them, thinking someone might regret the loss. Then I saw your notice. With trembling hands, Eleanor lifted the lid. Her old sketchbooks, her grandmother's lacquered keepsake box, photo albums, a cascade of rescued memories. Thank you, she whispered, tears blurring the edges of the familiar covers. But the sapphire pendant was absent. Heart-hammering, she pried open her grandmother's locked jewelry box with a hairpin. Nestled among faded photographs was a sealed envelope, addressed in Rosalind's elegant script. My dearest Eleanor, if you are reading this, the tide has turned against you. Know this absolutely. The house and all within it are yours, and yours alone. No claim by Harold or Margaret can alter this truth. The enclosed documents are your shield. I have always believed in your strength. With all my love. Rosalind. Deborah scanned the attached papers, her professional composure giving way to a triumphant gleam. A notarized affidavit of title transfer, dated years before their forgery. This is incontrovertible. Eleanor, this is your victory. Eleanor traced her grandmother's photographed cheek. She knew. She always knew what they were capable of. Then let's make her foresight count, Deborah said, her voice resolute. We're going to unwind this fraud and bring your home back to you. Autumn had burned the maples to a deep crimson when Deborah placed the court order on her desk. It's done. The sale is null and void. The contract was built on a forged foundation. Eleanor absorbed the words, watching a leaf detach and spiral past the window. A month of hotel rooms and gathering fragments had led here. The buyers, their damages? Are not your concern, Deborah stated firmly. Liability falls on the agent who facilitated the sale and on your father. As the forger, the court was unequivocal. Father. The word was a shard of ice in her chest. His betrayal, the deliberate falsification of her signature, was a wound that transcended financial loss. And these, Deborah said softly, placing a heavy keyring in Eleanor's palm. Your keys, your home. The metal was cool, its weight profound. It was more than a key. It was a reclaimed threshold. Before Eleanor could fully form her gratitude, her phone buzzed. Margaret, she answered, steeling herself. Eleanor, what is this legal nightmare? Her mother's voice was a frantic vibrato. The sale is cancelled? The buyers are furious. The sale was illegal. Mother, Dad forged my signature. The court has confirmed it. Preposterous. Harold, tell her. The phone was fumbled, and her father's weary voice came on. Ellie, let's discuss this. We were wrong to sell it out from under you, but we were desperate. Desperate enough to throw away my life? My history? A heavy sigh. Pamela's debts. My medical bills. It was a perfect storm. Why not come to me? The sadness in her own voice surprised her. I have always helped you. You were abroad, Margaret interjected, the excuse thin and sharp. And you always make us feel so judged. Judged? A cold clarity washed over Eleanor. Arguing was a maze with no exit. The house is mine again. I'm going there now. But what about us? Margaret's cry was theatrical. The money from the sale is gone. Eleanor paused, the silence itself an answer. I was prepared to settle your debts before I left. Now, rebuilding trust will take time. She ended the call. The "for sale" sign stood like a tombstone. The "sold" sticker peeled away, leaving a ghostly scar. Inside, the house was a hollow echo, furniture gone, walls bare. Yet, as she walked through the empty rooms, a strange peace settled over her. It was a blank page, at last hers to write upon. The doorbell chimed, slicing through the quiet. Pamela stood on the porch, her usual gloss replaced by smudged mascara and raw vulnerability. Can I come in? Eleanor wordlessly stepped back. Pamela hovered in the vacant living room, her gaze flitting over the emptiness. I'm sorry, she blurted out, for the things I said, for letting them take your things, for all of it. Eleanor waited, silent. Parents, they were drowning. Pamela continued, tears welling. I lost a fortune at the casino. Dad's surgery? But that doesn't make it right, does it? Grandmother's pendant, Eleanor said, her voice low. What did you do with it? Pamela's gaze hit the floor. I sold it to Green's Jewelry on Grand Avenue. It's probably gone. The pain was a physical squeeze. The Davis jewel, the true value. Thank you for telling me, Eleanor said, turning toward the window where the sunset bled into twilight. There's more, Pamela said, stepping closer. They're talking about fighting you, legally, but I won't let them. I'll stop them. Eleanor turned, searching her sister's face. Why? Because you've carried us long enough, Pamela whispered, a genuine tear tracing a clean path through the smudges. I see that now. The proprietor of Green's Jewelry, an elderly man with kind eyes named Joseph Green, listened to Eleanor's story with growing dismay. The sapphire? Yes, a remarkable piece. A private collector purchased it just last week. Eleanor's hope crumbled. However, he said, holding up a finger, allow me to make an inquiry. The collector is a person of sentiment. 3 days later, Joseph called. The collector, moved by the story, agreed to return the heirloom on condition of a full refund. Eleanor agreed without a second thought. When the velvet box was placed back in her hands, Eleanor climbed the stairs to her grandmother's old room. Now a sunlit study, she held the pendant against her heart, facing a photograph of Rosalind. I kept my promise, she murmured. The house is safe. The tears that came were not of sorrow, but of profound release, the final surrender of a weight she had carried for a lifetime. A year later, spring breathed new life into Maple Street. The white colonial house had been reborn through Eleanor's vision. The first floor now housed Davis Associates, her thriving architectural firm, where light poured onto drafting tables and young designers debated over models. Your 2 p.m. is here, Eleanor, her assistant, Kate, said softly. Eleanor nodded, her gaze drifting to the resurrected rose garden her grandmother had loved. Her life had been recalibrated. The founding of the Rosalind Foundation had been the pivot, a small, fierce organization to aid those whose personal legacies had been plundered by those they trusted. Deborah chaired the legal board. 3 new cases this week, she'd reported recently. The pattern, sadly, is familiar. In these shared stories, Eleanor found a new kind of kinship. The monthly gatherings in her home were filled not with the tension of blood ties, but with the warmth of chosen understanding. Her birth family existed in a new, simpler reality. Harold and Margaret, legally and financially accountable for the fraud, now lived in a modest apartment. Pamela, her illusory social life dissolved, was slowly, painfully, building authenticity. The Christmas dinner invitation had been gently declined, but a framed photo of Rosalind, sent by Eleanor, now sat in their apartment, a silent, potent emblem of a bridge not yet crossed, but no longer fully burned. Today, a new project lay ahead, the Foundation's digital initiative to track and recover lost heirlooms. On her desk, the blue sapphire pendant caught the morning light. Eleanor fastened it around her neck, its familiar weight a comfort and a compass. She opened one of the rescued albums to a picture of a young, smiling Rosalind, her eyes alight with future wisdom. Endings are simply the raw materials for beginnings, Eleanor thought. A gentle spring breeze stirred the papers on her desk. She smiled, ready for the day. Her journey, once defined by loss, now guided by legacy, and the quiet, unshakable strength her grandmother had always seen within her.